Mean Girls, 2004. I saw this first at the cinema when it was released. Um, I remember going to Chelsea Cineworld at that time and really loved it. And I still like it as a film. I've also seen the more recent musical version of it, but I prefer the original. It's Um, Back at the time, I don't think I knew any of the actors in it, certainly not very well. Didn't know Lindsay Lohan, or Rachel McAdams, but from then on, especially Rachel McAdams, she's been in a lot of films since then. Um, and it is, I would say it's one of the best films of 2004, along with Butterfly Effect and a few other films. And it's one of the best films of the noughties as a whole, I think. Certainly the best um, coming of age type film that sort of 16, 17-year-old age group where young women are becoming adults and learning on that huge learning curve, learning how to be adults and um, how not to make the sort of mistakes that happen, especially to Katie Harron, played by Lindsay Lohan, the um, the main character, the protagonist in this film. Now, Cady, who's often called Caddy by some of the other people, the other students and teachers, and um, she's she grew up in Africa. Uh, can't remember if the actual state, the particular nation is mentioned. This nation state, uh, is it Zambia? Not totally sure, but her parents working out there, and then her mother, I think, gets a job in um, Chicago or something. I think sort of northwestern. Is that Chicago? Anyway, it's Illinois. I think is where the film is set, and she is 16 at this point, Katie, and she um, enrolls in school after being homeschooled for years because her parents want her to properly socialize to get social skills. And she certainly does. I mean, it's a very different environment, an American school, high school, compared to what she was used to in Africa. In America, it does feel the schools, there's so much hazing, heavy bullying type of behavior, lots of fighting, lots of pushing and shoving. I mean, of course, everything is slightly exaggerated when it comes to films like that, and I think that's even mentioned in the synopsis for this film. Um, but it's because, um, I mean, this film is based on the book Queen Bees and Wannabes, and that's essentially what it is. I mean, Mean Girls covers it very well anyway, simply because um, she learns a lot from the mean girls that she decides to befriend. Right. The first day she arrives, her parents like the first thing is her parents are like looking down on her as if she's like 5 years old, but she's just sitting. She's actually 16. Well, she goes into school, and they're almost very helicopter parenting, as you'd expect for a teenager of that age. But they're genuinely concerned because she's not had that sort of experience before. She's had a sheltered upbringing. Um, and she at first day, she finds difficult, um, but she gets to meet, um, a couple of, um, um, gay people, a lesbian and a gay man, and, um, the they take her under their wing. I mean, they advise her the sort of things that, she really shouldn't be doing, and they give a really good warning. They've got a sort of canteen table map that explains how all the, um, students form into cliques, or as, the characters in this film often call it, cliques. And I often hear that from Americans. Brits don't tend to say click. It's not CLICK, it's CLIQUE, French word. So clique. Um, this gives a sort of the map is a kind of synopsis of the very different groups, sort of the types of people. Uh, I really love that. I mean, it wasn't quite like that in my day in school. I mean, that's way back, and it's the UK, of course. But she, um, she's warned a lot about the worst group of all, which is the plastics, and because they invite her to join um, them at their table, um, she accepts that. Um, but the idea she gets from um, the the two friends, the two genuine friends she's made, at least um, they're genuine. I mean, it's a different perspective the way the film develops, but um, they sort of they, they kind of indoctrinate her into the plastics lifestyle, which is heavily materialistic, and they've got so many rules, and it's all about superficiality, and it's kind of depressing. But Georgina's like the leader of their small group of this small pack. There's Gretchen and Karen. Those are the other two girls in that group. Karen's played by Amanda Seyfried, who also has become very well known since. But Georgina's played by um, Rachel McAdams, and that was the first time I saw her in films. And she's awesome. I think Lindsay Lohan's awesome as well. I just really enjoy the whole film. I think they're all really good acting. Um, so, um, because there's all these fights, all these things develop. I mean, the script is great. The script seems to be written by Tina Fey, and she stars as one of the teachers, Mrs. Norbury, um, who is a bit clumsy and gets into some kind of trouble. I mean, there's the headmaster. He might mean well, but he breaks some rules, which I might explain in a minute. I'm sort of wondering what line to draw in terms of spoilers. So um, I won't talk too much about the final bit of the film, but there's the whole thing about um, how Miss Norbury has suggested that Katie gets involved with the mathletes because she's excellent at maths, but she gets a crush on this lad. And so she actually, after doing really well in her test results, she starts intentionally failing, giving incorrect answers because she wants to connect with this lad. I can't remember his name, but he takes a very dim view when he finds out that's her plan. And there's a complication that he used to go out with Georgina. So there's all sorts of complications in this film that make it really deliciously fun film. It is, apart from um, the two LGBTQIA plus characters, it's mainly cis straight. I mean, the whole thing. Katie is very straight, and so's almost all of the characters. And it is a co-ed school, but there's this sort of I mean, there's this. I found there's a strange thing where there's all this trouble develops over the course of the year because Katie goes along with to some extent she starts sabotaging the plastics, but then she gets so involved with them that um, she actually double crosses um, her LGBTQIA plus friends. So she ends up alienating a lot of people. I don't think that's a particular spoiler because it is a huge learning curve. But as things start to really fall apart towards the end, there's like the headmaster who has done a couple of inappropriate things. I mean, there's a point where he's like seeing the plastics in his room because there's this burn book and he's investigating it because it's full of awful comments that they've written about all their classmates, and no one wants to admit to it. But all these like leaflets are parts of the burn book or photocopied and strewn around. And the uh, when the students find out, they start fighting. So the headmaster gets a baseball bat and he's outside, no expecting trouble, and he uses it to break a fire alarm just to get the school in order. I just think, wow, that's a bit of an extreme way of doing it. I mean, even not you don't need to surely break the glass on a fire alarm. And I suppose if you're the head teacher, you can do what you want, but there's a few things. Also, he calls the junior girls, and I suppose that's 16-year-olds, maybe 17-year-olds. I don't know. I'm confused about what age group. There's all sorts of free and easy, strange things that happen, like one student who isn't even in the school who's just interloping. And there's some really dodgy things as far as one of the teachers, and then they investigate other teachers. So there's all sorts of complications. And I thought, gosh, I mean, the way it's dealt with in terms of safeguarding is better than it would have been if it had been a film set in the 70s or 80s. But I don't think it's as strict as it would be if it was a film set in the 2020s. I think safeguarding in the English speaking world certainly seems to have improved enormously. But I mean, all the things I remember from films I've seen, from like The Breakfast Club and all those sort of films from way back. I kind of like this film at least as much. I mean, it's very much of its era, and um, seeing how Katie goes through this real wobbly time as she learns, does major mistakes, but she kind of eventually, well, it seems like she isn't learning from it, but she sort of justifies why she's in that position. But then things develop from there. But The sort of things. I mean, she's found out for the sort of things, the sabotage she does. These like counting bars, um, where um, she she's sort of gaslit Georgina into thinking that they will help her lose weight when um, they actually cause weight gain, and the lads on the sports teams know that, but they don't. They only find out and talk about it. Like one lad sees Georgina eating these bars, and there's all these sort of strange gender divides, and yet there is interactions between people, and yet when um, when it comes to this point where the head teacher calls everyone to order, he only calls junior girls in for um, because it seems like they're the ones who've been fighting, and um, and that felt strange. Also, there's Damien who um, he's um, described as too gay to mention, something like that. I don't know. I'm trying not to explain too much about the film, but there's just a lot that I've learned, and I've rewatched the film now, and I think I love it just as much as I did when I first saw it in 2004. But I guess I've homed in on certain aspects of the film where I think, wow, this really feels dated. I mean, like when the head teacher asks um, the students to start, talking honestly about their difficulties, and the first teenage girl says she gets a heavy flow, and then he immediately realizes, he sort of says, "Oh no, I can't handle this," and he then asks Mrs. Norbury to do it. And it's like, oh yeah, I guess that kind of thing would happen. But I mean, there's so many things I think would that happen now in the 2020s? I mean, it did happen 20 years ago. It's believable from then. It's probably not quite as believable now. I don't know. It's and there's the grounding. Katie's parents, especially her dad, who don't really understand the term grounding. He's just got the idea that he should ground Katie, but he doesn't even realize it means that she can't go. It's a punishment, but he doesn't realize it's a punishment where she can't go out. So he understands the word, but he doesn't know what it actually means. There's 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 a lot of humor, and a lot of it is tongue in cheek, and um, I go with the flow with all of it. I think it's really very funnily made and very well scripted. And maybe I ought to read the book sometime. This Queen Bees and Wannabes, but um, one or two of the aspects I thought, wow, does that really happen in American schools? And then I thought, oh no, it's probably just an exaggeration, like the interloper, the student who actually just wants to share, and she's not actually, turns out she's not in that school. People go, oh, are you actually in the school? It's just like bonkers stuff. But it adds to the humor. So I'm going to score this 9 point, no, just 9. I'm going to score it 9. I think I'm pretty sure I gave it 9, and I can check when I saw it in 2004, and I think it still held on to that. It's just um, a real. I don't think it's dated. My personal opinion, it hasn't dated. Um, and it's just a joy to watch. It's just funny. It's just funny throughout. And it's really, as far as coming of age stories, I think um, from the decades, I'd really like to perhaps make an award sort of season, my own personal award season of what films from each decade that I know are the best in each genre of films. So, I'd go through, might do that at the end of this year or sometime uh, later in the year when I've got time, if I think about it more, is like my particular favorites from each decade of the last few decades in each genre. See what um, it'd just be interesting to compare that with other people if anyone's interested. Still, 9 out of 10 is my score. Love to know what you think. Please like if you like this review. Um, Thanks for subscribing if you do. Hit that notification button and hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.